Hi everyone, I'm JD. Welcome back to my channel. Well, I'm finally ready to answer all of your questions for the 2000 subscriber video. I'm sorry it's taken so long. I was supposed to do this in August, but it was a pretty busy month and just ran out of time. It was a month I went on holidays and some family members came to visit and there was just no time to film. So I now have the whole night where I've got the house to myself. So I'm hoping that I can just nut this all out in one go. We'll see how far we get because there are quite a few questions. I've printed them all out and I'm just going to answer them in the order that they came in. I do have a bit of stuff here, like a show and tell, to hopefully give examples of what I talk about and make it a bit more interesting. But yeah, it's probably just going to be a lot of my voice and you can just craft along with me, hopefully, and I'll keep you company. Okay, so Judy asks, I want to ask about putting my journal together. I need help. So that's a pretty general one to start us off with. I probably need a bit more specifically knowing what you need, what area you need help with. So if you're watching this video, just leave a comment letting me know if it's like the pages or making the cover or something. I will link below the Make a Junk Journal series with me, the Make a Junk Journal with me series, and that goes through all the stages of the cover, the pages, the binding, which those principles can be applied to pretty much any journal after that. So hopefully that's helpful. But yeah, other than that, I'm not sure how to answer specifically. So yeah, that was probably not the most helpful answer for the first question, but let's move on. How do you think and collect what you want to do in a journal? Don't all the embellishments ephemera one has make you nervous? Actually, the opposite. I need lots of embellishments and ephemera for me to feel comfortable enough to create. You guys probably know that I do things in bulk. And if it's not in bulk, I hoard, basically. So it's only when I've got things in bulk that I will then use them. So you can see I've got like my journal cards in this basket and the botanical journal cards. I've got stamp tags in this one with the collage cluster tuck spots, and I've got the scrap clusters here, and this one's just a few die cuts and things. So I basically have a basket for every different type of embellishment or ephemera. You know, a basket for fabric, a basket for lace, a basket for envelopes, a basket for tags. And then I have a separate basket, let's just say this one, that I will call my project basket, and I will go through each basket of items and pick out, say if I'm doing a purple journal, I'll just go, oh yeah, picking out the purple stuff. Pretend that's purple. So I'll just go through everything, pick out anything purple, and I'll do that for every single basket until this is nice and full. And when this gets full enough for the theme that I'm working on, that's when I'll make my journal. So that's just my method. It really works for me. I really like it that way. It helps me. Might not work for everyone, but just to give you an idea, that's how it doesn't become overwhelming. You know, everything's got its spot, everything is in order, everything's easily accessible, and I can just grab it out and put it in the basket. And then I only have that one basket that I use to draw from when I'm making a journal, and it just works out really well. So not overwhelming at all. Junk Journals with Gina B. Are you going to continue the scripture prayer journaling series? So this is my prayer journal, and yes, I am continuing it. You may have seen the other videos that I put up, but I'm just kind of slow, basically. I was ideally hoping to do this every day, but it's more like every week, and maybe slower than that. But yeah, I'm getting there. I've actually made it through all of the scripture requests because a lot of you doubled up on scriptures. So if you have a scripture request, just leave it below in the comments. I'm looking for more. The one that we're working on now for this page spread I'll be doing is Philippians 4:8, maybe, I think. I'm not sure the exact verse, but yeah, I'll get onto that. That's still happening. And yeah, the intention is to fill up the whole journal. So yeah. Tina, she says, when you were going through depression and anxiety, what motivated you to keep journaling, drawing, and being creative? I miss being passionate about doing it. I want so badly to do it, and I have so many ideas, but I have a hard time with motivation. Any advice? So yeah, I can only talk about my experiences, my journey with this. So it might not be helpful for anyone else. And yeah, I kind of call myself a creative person. We're all creative, but in essence, I definitely know I'm very creative. I've always grown up creative and always been creating. And so I remember watching a video where Johanna Clough got the same question, and I was really chuffed because she answered it in the same way that I would answer it. So she was just saying, yeah, she doesn't need to find motivation. And that's exactly the same for me. Like, just because I'm creative means that I create. I don't need to find a motivation somewhere. And when I was depressed and anxious, I creating was like my lifeline. It was something that helped me. It was therapeutic, and it was something I turned to in that dark time, that dark and painful time. So yeah, I'm not sure if that much help with this question here, but I've got thoughts on motivation from my own life, where I kind of look at how much do I really want to do something versus what are the things that are stopping me from doing it. Is it my own laziness? Is it fear? Fear of failure, fear of messing up, fear of not being perfect, fear of what other people think, comparing myself to others, that kind of thing. And so I can look at that, and I'll just have to, once I identify the fears, I can then kind of overcome them, I suppose. And I can go, look, I really just want to create. That's what I want to do. I've got these fears, but if my desire to create overrides the fears, then I will create. If not, then yeah, I'll really have to tackle those fears or whatever those issues are, the laziness or whatever. But then I go back to like, how much do I actually really want this then? If I'm that lazy, then, maybe I don't really want to do it. And I kind of, there's a lot in this question too. Like, I kind of hear a lot of people say things like, I've lost my mojo, or I've got creative block, and how do I get it back? And they sound so fretting, like they're fretful about it. And I just want to say, kind of like, calm down. You don't have to create all the time. If you don't feel like creating, that's okay. Do something else. And because even though I'm a creative person, I don't literally create every single second of the day, because sometimes I feel like drawing. I mean, drawing. Sometimes I feel like reading. Sometimes I feel like watching a movie. Sometimes I feel like just going for a walk, so... but I never go, oh, I've lost my mojo if I'm not feeling creative in this exact moment. I'll just go and do whatever it is else that I feel like doing, because I know, like, eventually I will want to create again. So yeah, just do something else. Do what you want to do if you have no motivation to keep journaling and drawing and being creative. Otherwise, I kind of go, well, yeah, I may not be motivated, but I know I want to do it. And so even though I'm not motivated, I'm still going to do it anyway. I can kind of let the intellectual side kind of override the lack of motivation, if that makes sense. So yeah, I don't know. Take that all. That's just my own thoughts. I've had struggles in motivation and things like going after dreams and writing and doing that kind of stuff. And I've had to look at in my own life, what are my fears here, and how much do I actually want to do this, and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, anyway, but I don't actually put any pressure on myself to create. If I'm not feeling creative, I won't create. I'll just do something else. But that's because I guess I essentially am a creative person, so I know that I will eventually want to create later on. So yeah. Anyway, Laurie asked, what do you do to sell your journals? Also, when do you know a journal is finished? Let's answer that second question first. And this is not something that I can kind of pass on in terms of, like, I can't teach anyone to know when they're finished, because it will come from inside, I believe. It's not like a thing that you can intellectualize, if that's a word. It more comes by feel. So my advice there is just create and create and create. And the more you create, the more you trust your own creativity, the more you trust your own judgment, the more you trust your own, aesthetics, and you know what you like, you know what you don't like, you know when something's done or when it's not done, just because by feel, because you've created a lot and you just know what you like. And you can look at that page and go, yeah, that needs something else. And you can get that thought, that feel by just creating. I'm not sure if I'm explaining myself very well here. So yeah, you just know it. That's not the most helpful thing, but anyway, what do you do to sell your journals? So I started off literally just by, I made my journals and then I started showing them to people. And then one of the people I showed was a neighbor and she bought one of my journals. Then I showed my sister-in-law and she bought one of my journals. And I then started a YouTube channel and did flip throughs of my journals. And then people wanted to buy my journals through that. So yeah, that's how it all happened. I guess all I can say is make the journals, share them, and see what happens. I guess, well, now that I have an Etsy, what I do now that it kind of is a business is, I still share them on my channel, but then I take photos of them and I edit them and then I put them up on my Etsy shop and I write a description about, my journal, and that's how I sell them on Etsy. Joanna asks, I seem to stuff my JJ way full, which I love because I use photos and journaling cards as well as ephemera. I've watched your videos on DIY and I've experimented with several types of closures, but mine always start to rip or come loose in places. Any advice other than don't stuff them so full? Well, the closures I like to use are either the one where it just wraps around so it's not attached and you're not going to have a problem with it ripping because it's not attached. Then you've got these types where you the fabric soft cover journals put the closure all the way across the back, so that's not really going to go anywhere because it's stuck across the whole back. And this one especially is not going to go anywhere because I've covered the ribbon with fabric, so that's well and truly stuck. Not only that, but it's sewed in place too. So that's probably not ever going to rip apart. But what I recommend for the most sturdy closure is the eyelet, or using the crocodile. And I don't have an eyelet here because I didn't actually have an eyelet at the time. I can easily take this out and add an eyelet. But yeah, use the crocodile to punch a hole, add an eyelet, and then thread your whatever closure you want in there. And that's so sturdy and it's great. It looks great. I love it. It's my favorite. So there you go. Susie, what do you do to jumpstart when you have a creative block? So my answer will be similar to how I answered Tina's question, in that I don't tend to have creative block. And if I just don't feel like creating in the moment, then I won't. I'll just do something else that I feel like. Read a book, watch a movie, that kind of thing. There are, however, times where I may feel exhausted with a project. For example, I may be kind of not feeling it with making journals, but then I'll do something else. I'll draw, or I will make some embellishments, or if I'm sick of making embellishments, I'll just I will cut out ephemera. And that's the one thing I also do. If I'm just don't have any energy to create, I will cut out ephemera or cut out journal cards, and I will do that usually listening to a podcast or music, or maybe watching a movie in front of a movie, or often watching football. I love my footy. And so, that's a bit of a thread. So yeah, I feel like I'm still being productive. I'm still doing something towards the creative area, but it's not labor intensive, just cutting, and doesn't take much energy. And so that really helps me as well get back into things, I suppose. Terry, I know your passion is your journaling and your Etsy, and your hope is for that to be your full-time job. Do you have another job, and what is it? Well, first of all, I guess just to clarify, yes, I am definitely passionate about journaling. It is one of my biggest passions because I believe in it so much. I believe it is such a helpful tool for people in their lives. It's so therapeutic. It helps us to reflect. It helps us to know ourselves and to It gives us so much joy if you like writing. Helps us to record memories and pass on stories. I rave about journaling and the benefits it can give into a person's life. So I'll always be passionate about journaling. Etsy is just a means to sharing journals, I suppose, though. I'm not really passionate about Etsy. It's just a way for me to bring my journals into other people's lives so that they can have a tool, that they can have this beautiful journal that sparks joy in their lives, that they can open and then feel them, and they can make it themselves, make the journal feel it. What am I trying to say? What's that word? I have no idea what I'm trying to say. But they can, make the journal their own. Yes, that's what I was trying to say. They can make the journal their own, and they can fill it with their dreams and their thoughts and their wishes and their stories and their memories, and that's what I love. But Etsy itself is just, that's just the practical side of it. And in terms of like my hope for a full-time job, it's not necessarily Etsy that I want as a full-time job. It's just anything creative and anything that I get to do that spreads creativity with other people. Whether that's, my first love is actually writing books and that kind of thing. So whether it's spreading books with people or spreading art, my drawings, I also like to draw, spreading drawings with people or spreading journals with people. Something that has an impact on people. Yes, I do want to make a difference in the world somehow, make people's lives better. And because I enjoy creating and believe in it, yes, that's why I want it to be my full-time job. But also, I do hope it makes an impact and all that kind of stuff. I do have another job. I am the administrator at my local church. It's a part-time job, and I'm very thankful for it because it pays for me to be able to do willow bound journals. It pays for my materials, especially before I had Etsy or anything like that. Literally all I could draw on for paying for materials was my job. And that's why that's how I see it, kind of thing. It's like I work there partly so that I can just fund my creative hobby. And it's really interesting because I love admin. I'm a very organized, very structured, very ordered, methodical, systematic person. Yes, which I've always been a bit confused about because I'm also at the same time very creative, very artistic, and very imaginative. And I've always had this tension of how do these two go together? But somehow it just works. Anyway, the thing is though, like admin for me is like breathing, filing, data entry, organizing things. I can do that in my sleep. I do enjoy it. But there's a difference. I've learned something that there's different levels of enjoyment. Admin comes naturally to me the way that breathing does. Like I don't have to think about it. I can just do it. But creating, that's also natural for me. But the difference is in terms of enjoyment is that I never get home from a day of work from my admin job going, man, I'm glad I did that. That was the best thing I've ever done. And I'm just so joyful and I just want to sing and dance because it's just giving me so much joy. Never happened. I enjoy it, yes, but that's never happened. But when I have written a chapter of a book, or I finish a short story, or I write a poem, or I write a blog post, I am just filled with joy. I'm just like, I have been known to just jump up from my chair, my desk, and just be like, oh my gosh, that feels so good. I feel so great. It just gives me the best feeling. Nothing makes me feel as good as writing does. That's how I know it's like, in terms of hobbies, my first love in terms of hobbies. Yeah, it just makes me come alive. It gives me so much joy. It makes me want to sing and dance. And that's how I know that is my first passion or my truest passion. So yeah, that was just interesting. I don't know if that helps you guys. That quote, the world needs people who have come alive, and that's what makes me come alive, writing and creating. So yeah. Carmen, this question I think is in German. I put it into Google Translator, and to the best of my knowledge, what I could make out of it was, how long did it take you to find your style? So I'm just going to answer that question. So I remember when I first started my channel, I was always like, man, I was kind of fretting about, I need to find my style. Everyone else has their style and I don't know my style. And yeah, I was just so determined to find my style, kind of thing. Now I'm much more laid back. I've learned that you simply just find your style by creating. The more you create, you just create and create and create over and over again, and you just learn by doing it that what your style is. And so, yeah, I don't put any pressure on myself to find my style anymore, I don't think, because I just create whatever I want to create. And then it tells me, yeah, I like that, or I don't like that, or yeah, I want to do that again, or I don't want to do that again. And that kind of leads me into my own style. So just create, and I guess I'm still finding my style. I guess I've got certain styles, like the glassine bags and the paper bag journals definitely have a certain style, and I don't know, I guess I've got different types of journals that have their own style, but you also see that I do lots of different things, like the twine binding journals, those travel journals, flow journals. So I do try to do different things as well and just experiment. So yeah, I'm just having fun with the process. Sherry, I'm wondering, how do you decide on a theme for a journal? I find it so difficult getting started. Well, no, that's not something I find difficult at all, because I have a mile-long list of themes in my head. So I'm never short of ideas. In fact, I can almost feel the opposite, that I'm overwhelmed by so many ideas that I'm just so I'm a goal person, and I just tick things off, and I can feel like I can not enjoy making a journal because all I'm doing is trying to tick it off the list, because I'm just rushing through them, type of thing. So I've just got to calm down a bit, I think. So the themes, how I decide is usually just, I just go to the next one on the list. Or it will be just which one I have enough supplies of. So if I'm working on a purple themed journal, once I have enough purple supplies, then I will work on a purple themed journal. Yeah. Amanda, I wanted to know when you first realized that God had a place in your life. Was it during your mental health journey, or had you a strong faith growing up? No, it definitely wasn't during my mental health journey, because that only happened in 2015-16, and I knew God ever since I was, a kid. So my sister was the first one to tell me about God. She started going to church and became a Christian when she was about 13, and I was about 5 at the time, and she told me about him, read me Bible stories, and straight away I believed in him, and I believed that he loved me and that kind of thing. There was this moment, though, where I went into the garden because I had to, and this kind of tells you an insight about what kind of kid I was and what kind of person I am. I'm a very kind of intellectual type of person. And I just had this moment at 5 or 6 years old where I was like, do I really believe in God? Can I really believe in God? It wasn't that he was invisible. That wasn't the thing that was my stumbling block, so to speak, because plenty of things you can't see when that you believe in, I've never seen Africa before, but as a kid, I believed in Africa. Now, of course, there's maps and things, but, we've got the Bible and experiences and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, if people are trustworthy, I believe them, and I don't have to see. I'm not one of those people who has to see things with my own eyes. I can believe in things even if I can't see it. My issue was that I didn't want to believe in him if the reason why we couldn't see him was that he didn't exist. Well, then I don't want to believe in him. And so I just had this moment where I was like, I'm going into the garden because I need to think about this. I need to wrestle with this, and I need to figure out once and for all, do I believe in God or not? And is it logical for me to believe in God or not? Can I believe in God or not? So yeah, this tells you what kind of kid I was. So I went to the garden and I was just like wrestling with this question, and really all that happened was I looked at the trees, I looked at the rocks and creation and nature all around me, and I just felt in myself that I believe for me that, yeah, this isn't an accident. Creation, existence isn't random or a mistake, and I believed that a creator created it. And yeah, that might not be the most intellectual conclusion to come to, but at the very deepest level of my soul, that's what I found, that I discovered I believed. And so yeah, I resolved that yes, I did believe in God. And even, growing up, there were times where I didn't want to believe in God because believing in God was uncool, and it, people were like, how can you believe in God when you can't see him? And I was like, fair point. Maybe I shouldn't believe in God, and maybe I don't want to believe in God because it seems so far-fetched and all that kind of stuff. And sometimes I would try to not believe in him. But even when I pulled apart every single reason why it was silly to believe in God, and even when I didn't even want to believe in God, I still couldn't ever shake that core underlying belief that we have a creator. And that's just my story. That's just what it is for me. And so creation has always been a very big part in my life journey and faith, because it just shows me God. I can't not see God in creation. And yeah, but God wasn't a real presence in my life, I suppose, all through my childhood, because even though I believed in him and knew he loved me, I didn't ever interact with him. I didn't really talk to him. He was just this far off being. But then at high school, I started going to this after school program, and it was run by Christians, and they would talk about God. They had this amazing knack of bringing up God in everyday conversation. And I found that I loved talking about God with them, and it really made me it brought God to the forefront of my mind, because before I'd pushed him to the back of my mind. And it made me take him seriously, and I really liked him, and I wanted to become a Christian. And so at the age of 14, I became a Christian, and yeah, best decision of my life. Of course there were ups and downs and lots of trials and challenges and things like that, but definitely the best journey ever. And I'm so glad. Yeah, so that's how my faith kind of happened. All right, we're almost at 30 minutes. These videos are going to take forever to upload. I've kind of just accepted that fact because I just want to get through these questions as quickly as possible, and I want to, not have it a huge long series with 10 videos. So hopefully we can get this done maybe in 3 or so videos. We'll see how we go. I'm going to end it there, and I'll pick up right where we left off. Okay, see you guys.